Hello everyone, I'm Professor Lee of Dr. Anti-Aging and Herbal Medicine TV. In this 2025 lecture series on 12 core strategies for longevity, we've already covered 3 of the most important topics, many of which are based on Nobel Prize-winning research. So far, we've explored 1. How to prevent and repair DNA damage, 2. How to prevent telomere shortening and promote telomere extension, 3. How to eliminate senescent cells which spread aging signals throughout the body. Starting today, we will dive into autophagy, a powerful natural recycling process within our cells that play a critical role in slowing aging. Before we go further, let me summarize the 4 practical longevity strategies that anyone can start right now, regardless of age or condition. 1. Exercise, either aerobic or high-intensity interval training combined with strength training. 2. Sleep, aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep a night. 3. Stress management, through practice like meditation or deep breathing. 4. Dietary adjustment, either reduce calorie intake by 10 to 25% or practice intermittent fasting. These 4 lifestyle habits are essential for all 12 anti-aging domains we'll cover in these lectures. If these are not in place, no matter how expensive or high-quality supplement or medicines you take, it's useless. But if you combine these habits with aging-defying food and supplement, the effects are remarkable. Now, calorie restriction and fasting can be tough, especially for those who love to eat. The good news, there are autophagy-enhancing compounds that mimic the effect of fasting without actually fasting, and that's what this lecture is all about. For DNA repair, telomere support, and senescent cell clearance, here are some recommended longevity-enhancing options: fruits, apples, strawberries, red onions, cucumbers, herbal teas, green tea, astragalus root, Japanese angelica, and gotu kola tea. Nutrients and supplements, omega-3 fatty acid, NAD boosters, cycloastragenol, and fisetin. Let's begin today's lecture on autophagy, the body's built-in system for cellular cleanup, regeneration, and longevity. What exactly is autophagy? The word comes from Greek. Auto means self, and phagy means to eat. In simple terms, it's the body's built-in recycling system. It's actually one of the most ancient survival mechanisms that's been around since the very beginning of life on Earth. Back then, resources were scarce, so cells had to find a way to survive under stress by breaking down and reusing their own part. We can still see it today in yeast, tiny worms, mice, and of course in humans. Every one of us has this amazing ability built right into our cells. Back in the late 1950s, when scientists first looked at animal cells under an electron microscope, they noticed something fascinating. Cells were breaking down their own internal materials inside little structures called lysosomes, using protein-degrading enzymes. A few years later, in the early 1960s, this process was officially given the name autophagy, which means self-eating. Fast forward to 2016, Dr. Yoshinori Osumi won the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. Using yeast cells, he was the first to identify the genes and proteins involved in autophagy and uncover its fundamental mechanisms. His work showed that autophagy is not just a quirk of simple organisms, but a deeply conserved survival strategy, stretching from yeast all the way up to mammals and humans. Even more exciting, this discovery opened the door to new treatment possibilities for a wide range of disease, including cancer, neurodegenerative disorders, and metabolic conditions. In mammals, and especially in human cells, autophagy kicks in whenever the body is under stress. That could be a lack of energy, oxidative stress, or even an infection. Cells constantly have to adapt to changes in their environment, and autophagy plays a central role in helping them survive. Research shows that by clearing out damaged protein and worn-out cell part, autophagy boosts cell survival and helps the body adapt to stress. In fact, In one animal study, mice with reduced autophagy were much more vulnerable to age-related diseases. These mice showed more nerve cell damage and on top of that, tend to live shorter lives. When our cells lose their ability to clean house through autophagy, aging speeds up and disease take hold more easily. It's like a machine that breaks down when too much junk piles up inside. In the same way, if cells cannot clear out their waste, aging is accelerated and problems like neurodegenerative disease, cancer, and metabolic disorders begin to appear. Among the most critical things that need to be removed are worn-out proteins and broken proteins. For example, many forms of dementia develop when harmful proteins build up inside nerve cells. And its core, the very essence of life, is the interaction between proteins. And where do those proteins come from? They are made by our genes, the DNA inside every cell. In fact, our genes churn out more than 100,000 proteins every single day. Let me give you an example. Hemoglobin, the molecule that carries oxygen inside red blood cells, is a protein. Keratin, which makes up our skin, hair, and nails, is also a protein. All enzymes are proteins made from our genes every single day. Muscle tissue is mostly protein, and even insulin, the hormone produced by the pancreas, is a protein. But here's the thing. Once a protein is made inside a cell, it doesn't last forever. Proteins are fragile molecules, and they are easily damaged by things like temperature, pH changes, or oxidative stress. That's why every protein has its own lifespan. If old and damaged proteins are not cleared away, they start piling up, and the cell quickly loses function, just like a machine clogged with junk. Think about it. When something in your house is broken beyond repair, most people do not spend money fixing it piece by piece. Instead, you throw it out, recycle what you can, or simply buy a new one. It's faster and more efficient. Amazingly, our cells use the exact same strategy. Instead of trying to fix every broken protein, they break them down all at once, recycle the part, and then build brand new proteins. That process is autophagy. And let me emphasize again, autophagy is not just about cleaning up cellular trash. It's a survival tool, absolutely essential for keeping our cells and ultimately our bodies alive and healthy. It's not just old proteins that need to be recycled. Broken proteins also have to be cleared away quickly. When a protein is first made, it has to fold into a precise 3D shape to function properly. This process is called protein folding. Some small proteins fold without much trouble, but more complex ones often make mistakes. If they fold incorrectly, they can lose their function or even become toxic. For example, in Alzheimer's disease, misfolded beta-amyloid proteins build up and damage nerve cells. In Parkinson's disease, clumps of a misfolded protein called alpha-synucleins are commonly found. Normally, if your autophagy system is working well, these misfolded proteins get cleared away before they cause trouble. But if it's not, they just keep piling up until cells eventually die. And it's not only misfolded proteins, structurally altered proteins can also accumulate and accelerate aging. Take hemoglobin A1c or glycated hemoglobin, for example. Many of you have probably heard of it, since it's one of the most important tests used to monitor diabetes. It forms when glucose in the blood binds to hemoglobin, the protein in red cells that carries oxygen. When blood sugar stays high, more and more of this altered protein builds up. At normal levels, it plays a role in cell signaling and recognition, but when it becomes excessive, it turns harmful. You've probably heard of the Maillard reaction, the process that makes food turn brown and taste richer when it's cooked. It happens when protein and sugars bind together under heat. Think about the crispy brown crust on a fresh baked bread, an extra flavor when you grill meat, or even the sticky savory bit left on the pan after cooking marinated bulgogi. All of those are a result of the Maillard reaction. The product of this reaction are called advanced glycation end product, or AGE. Now, while this reaction makes food delicious, inside the body, it has a very different meaning. When you consume too much sugar, or when blood sugar stays high for a long period, proteins in the body can bind excessively with the sugars. That leads to the accumulation of AGE, and these molecules are strongly linked to aging and chronic disease. For example, when red blood cell proteins are glycated, their ability to carry oxygen decreases. That can leave you feeling chronically tired and lower your overall physical performance. When collagen in the skin binds with sugar, elasticity drops, wrinkles appear faster, and the skin appears prematurely. In the retina, AGE can damage blood vessels and trigger complications like diabetic retinopathy. In the eye's lens, they can cause cataract, clouding vision, and in severe cases, even leading to blindness. And in the kidneys, excessive glycation impairs function, becoming a major cause of chronic kidney failure. Autophagy plays a crucial role here. It helps break down this glycated protein, preventing them from piling up and keeping our cells healthier for longer. Now, let's take a closer look at what exactly autophagy works on and the different types it comes in. The most important target are old and damaged proteins. These are broken down into amino acids, which the cell can then reuse to build fresh new proteins. But proteins are not the only things that get recycled. When needed, other materials are also broken down. For example, when a cell runs low on energy, first taps into the stored energy. The most common form is glycogen, which is stored in the liver and muscles. Glycogen is a polysaccharide, and when it's broken down into glucose, it can be used right away as fuel. This process is a form of autophagy called glycophagy. But during long fasting, extreme stress, or when glycogen is completely depleted, the body switches to another energy source, fat. Inside the cell, fat is stored in droplets called lipid droplets. When these are broken down for energy, the process is called lipophagy. You've probably experienced this in daily life. During short bursts of intense exercise like sprinting, your muscles burn glycogen rapidly to supply energy. In fasting or stress conditions, the body first relies on glycophagy, but as that runs low, it turns to lipophagy to keep cells alive. There's another critical form of autophagy, mitophagy. When mitochondria, the power plant of the cell, becomes damaged or inefficient, they start releasing harmful reactive oxygen species. If they are not cleared away, the cell can be seriously injured. Mitophagy breaks down these faulty mitochondria and makes room for new healthy ones to take their place. Studies have shown that when mitophagy is boosted in mice, their lifespan increase and age-related diseases are delayed. In humans, finding ways to activate mitophagy is considered a promising new anti-aging therapy. We'll explore that in more detail in our upcoming lecture on mitochondrial aging. So, how do our cells actually carry and recycle all this waste? Well, when there are a lot of cellular trash to handle, they use something like a garbage truck. This process is called macro-autophagy. But when the waste is really small, the cell does not need a big transport system. Instead, it just tosses the trash straight into a garbage bag for disposal. That's called micro-autophagy. And then there are the special kinds of waste, like leftover fragments of DNA or RNA. To deal with those, the cell uses a special delivery system, almost like a courier service. Proteins called chaperones act like delivery workers, guiding this special waste directly to where it needs to be broken down. This process is known as chaperone-mediated autophagy. To finish part 1 of this lecture, let me work through the recycling system inside our cells, the very processes that earned the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2016. Take a look at this cell diagram. The brown fragment you see represent all kinds of protein waste. And here, this round structure is the rhizosome, the cell's recycling plant. First, the cell has to gather up the trash. It creates a kind of garbage bag called a membrane sac and begins to load the protein waste inside. 2. Once all the trash is packed, the bag is sealed tightly so nothing leaks out. This sealed waste container is known as an autophagosome, the cell's garbage truck. What we are looking at now is a real electron microscope image of one. Inside the round vesicle, you can actually see damaged mitochondria and worn-out cell part waiting to be broken down. Pretty amazing, isn't it? 3. Next, the autophagosome has to merge with the lysosome. Think of two spaceships docking together in outer space. Once they connect, the trash is delivered inside the lysosome. 4. Inside the lysosome are powerful digestive enzymes. Here, in this electron microscope image, all those dark dots are the enzymes ready to break down the waste. They shred proteins and organelles into small, reusable pieces. 5. These broken down parts become building blocks, amino acid, fatty acid, and sugars. 6. Special transport proteins on the lysosome membrane then release these recycled materials back into the cytoplasm. It's almost like the cells being resupplied with brand new nutrient. 7. Finally, the recycled parts are sent to the mitochondria to make ATP or used as raw material to build new cellular compounds. Isn't it incredible? The cell turns its own garbage into fresh energy and new life, one of the most elegant recycling systems in all of biology. And this, what you see here, is a cell overloaded with waste, aged and worn out. When this keeps building up, aging speeds up, and many diseases begin to develop. But for people with strong autophagy, the story is very different. The cells recycle waste right away, keeping themselves young, clean, and healthy. In our next session, part 2, we'll look at the reason why autophagy weakens, and you can check if any of those apply to you. We'll also go over the kinds of disease that comes from reduced autophagy. And here's the good news: if you are dealing with any of those conditions, strengthening your autophagy may actually help you get better. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next lecture.